I'm Raymond Farmer, and you're watching Average Joe Sport Talk.
All right, Coach, appreciate you sitting in with us. It's been a true honor for you to come sit in with us. Tell us exactly how you got into your coaching career in general.
Well, when I was in high school, that was the last thing I wanted to do. But I eventually wound up at Memphis State University, and the last semester of my fourth year, I came back home during spring break and helped my high school football coach spring training for 3 or 4 days, and made up my mind. And I was the last year of a business degree, and so I went back to Memphis and told my advisor what I wanted to do. I wanted to get a minor in education, and I don't remember where I went to the head coach, Coach Murphy, and asked him could I be a graduate assistant the next year. So they actually paid for my education 5.5 years. I was a graduate assistant in the fall of '65, and I stayed on in the spring of '65 and played baseball 1 year, and then came back the next fall and helped coach the freshman team. That's when Memphis was in the new stadium that next fall. Freshman team was 4-0. We beat LSU. I remember we had a great group of freshmen, and I just graduated in August of '66, and back then I didn't have a teacher's certificate when I got out of college, but they gave it in Alabama. They had what they called a defense certificate. You could teach 1 year with what they call it without a certificate. They called it a defense certificate. But I went to school at Samford and finished up my degree, and actually finished my degree up in the summer of '66.
So back then, who were some of your bigger influences?
Well, everybody. Coach Bryant was my old high school coach, for one, because he got me prepared to play college football from a mental standpoint. I entered school in Memphis, just to give you an example, with 98 freshmen in red shirt. And if you've ever been in Memphis in the summertime, it's on the Mississippi, it's hot, really hot. Mm-hmm. So 98 freshmen in red shirt entered school. I was the second smallest guy there, weighed 157 pounds. And 2 weeks later, there's 33 of us left. And I was a survivor. I thought I tell you what, I love the game. I never had lived in a house or anywhere with indoor plumbing. So it was first indoor plumbing. Never had lived in a house with air conditioning. I had lived in an air-conditioned dorm. 3 meals a day, and playing the game you love. I thought I'd done died and gone to heaven.
You thought you were a Graceland.
Yeah, well, it was just an amazing thing for me. I was doing something that I'd always wanted to do, and my journey there was sort of bumpy. When I was in high school, I tried out at Marion Institute, didn't make it. I tried out at University of Southern Miss. They told me I wasn't ready to play. And less than a year later, I lined up and started against the freshman team in Memphis in August. That was in May. Went to Chattanooga and tried out, and they gave me a scholarship. But I had seen Memphis play Alabama in 1958, and I think Memphis got beat 14-0. But they were blue and gray. They really had pretty uniforms and were really competitive. And I was brazen enough, and I didn't know how the system. I just wrote and told them I wanted to come to school up there, and they said, "Well, we need more information than you just wanting to come to school up here." So in the meantime, a doctor had seen me from Hayden, Alabama, had seen me play, and he helped them recruit. And he went back and told them that there was a football player from Iceville, Alabama that could play. He thought, well, after I signed a scholarship with Chattanooga, I wrote this doctor back and said, I've already signed, I can't go anywhere else. So I didn't know. And he told Memphis, and I'm riding to school on a school bus when I lived on Rainbow Drive, and I saw Memphis State station wagon pass the bus. And when I got to the school, this was in May of '61, there was a defensive back coach named Wilson Waits waiting on me. So we want to get you up for a visit, Memphis, in about 2 weeks. And so I went to caught two prop plane at Gadsden Airport. And first time I'd ever flown, I got picked up in Memphis and stayed up there Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Went to the coach's office Friday night, Saturday night, and came home Sunday. But I went to the coach's office Sunday morning, and I was sitting at the desk, and the coach just had a piece of paper. He just flipped it over and said, "Sign it." And it was a 4-year grant and aid. And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do with a scholarship from Chattanooga?" He said, "Put it in a letter and send it back to him." So I did. I was working that summer baling hay from about 6 in the morning till 9 at night, and you make $5 a day plus lunch. And
big time back then.
I get in one night about 9 o'clock, and I'm hot and sweaty and nasty, and coach from Chattanooga was on my doorstep. And I never will forget what he said. He said, "Well, why did you do it?" I said, "Well, I've wanted to go to Memphis State since I saw him play Alabama." He said, "Well, if you can play at Memphis State, you can play at Alabama or Auburn." Or I said, "Coach, I thought I could do that when I signed with y'all." Well, they won't honor that scholarship. Well, make a long story short, I went and had, stayed up there 5.5 years, and my experience was just really, really good.
Awesome. Now, let's fast forward to your first career head job. That was at your alma mater, Asheville.
Asheville, 1968.
68. And there's been coaches like Rush Probst and Bill Clark and others come through there. What was it like? What was going through your head, the feelings, emotions, and everything when you stepped out on that field for the first time as head coach at your alma mater?
Well, it was all business because we played Montford, and when you played Montford, they usually had a bunch of Swinfords that played, and you knew you had to get ready. My old high school coach, he believed in being tough, and that's where I guess you gather things from different coaches that you work with. I played for a tough coach in college. Now we lined up. We was ranked nationally defensively every year I played. We were undefeated in '63. We tied Ole Miss, who was preseason ranked number 3. Nothing, and we beat Mississippi State 17-10 in a bloodletting. And we wound up 9-0-1, and we had the leading ground gainer in the nation on our team. We played Houston the last game of the year, and Auburn had a quarterback down. I can't recall his name, but he was the leading ground gainer in the nation. And they're listening to coaches are listening to the radio, or somebody is. And the quarterback gets hurt. And we had a boy named Dave Castanelli that played fullback. He was the second leading ground gainer. And we had a little Jewish quarterback named Billy Fletcher. Fletcher comes in and said, "Coach Murphy says give it to Castanelli every play." I gave it to Castanelli every play, and he wound up leading the nation. And rushing. Yeah. And I had the opportunity to play with a guy named Harry Shue, that was the second pick in the draft. Joe Namath was first, I think, and Harry was the second, and he was all pro. Played for the Oakland Raiders when they won and then he played for the Rams.
Now in '76, you made the move to Springville, correct?
Yeah.
And then back then was 81. You went back to Asheville.
86.
86. What was it that enticed you to go back to Asheville back then? You want to go back home?
Let me see. I came to Etowah after I left Springville.
Okay.
That's when Etowah. When I was needing a job because I got fired. That's the reason.
Okay.
If you work long enough as a coach, unless you're just extremely blessed with people, you'll get fired sometime or other. So I got fired, and Buddy Hearn was the coach. He had just been named coach at Etowah. A guy that had been my principal at high school named Shag Ritchie. Him and Buddy had worked together. The first job each of them had out of college at Valley Head.
Valley Head. And
he said, I know Buddy well. And he said, I think if you want a job up there, he said, I think they're going to be pretty good. Well, that's what everybody thought. But Buddy had been a noted coach that had noted for a lot of things. But I went up there with him, and it was part of the 17-year losing streak at Etowah. We was 1-9, 5-5, 0-10, and then I went back to Asheville from Etowah, and then when Coach Townsend came back to Etowah, I applied for the job at that time and didn't get it, but he made me defensive coordinator, so that's where I wound up.
Now, yeah, Coach Townsend, Wyman Townsend we're talking about, you was the defensive coordinator when he first arrived there.
Yeah.
What year was that?
87.
87.
He was here 5 years and was 48-12, and I was here 10 years as head coach. I think it was 92-32 or 92-31. Oh, it was really good. I mean, we went from not being respected at all to one of the most respected teams in the state of Alabama.
Now, speaking of the Etowah days, you coached some unbelievable players, made those guys a lot better. I want to list and name a few players. I want you to tell a little bit about each one, if you don't mind. I want to start with Patrick Nix. What was special about Patrick when he
student of the game? He wasn't blessed athletically. His son, I don't know where his son gets all his ability. It wasn't from his daddy. But Patrick was just a student. I mean, for the time he lived in the home. His dad was a coach, but he was a student of the game. And he took everything really, really serious.
Current Cleveland Browns coach Freddie Kitchens.
Hard nosed. That's what he had to be to live in the house he lived in.
Yeah.
But he had tremendous ability. I know when the coach from Washington State came in, it was the first spring I was the head coach. It was Jay, we played in the Jamboree and played center. And Mike Price was his name.
Mike Price?
And he had coached 2 first-round draft picks at Washington State. And he drove in a Buick, I think, rental car, and he was dressed real spiffy. He watched the 69-66 game at Oxford when Freddie was playing, and but then we go out to practice, and Coach Dale Adams was offensive coordinator. So I told him, I said, Dale, throw it more today because we got a coach here. Well, Freddie, if he hadn't sold himself, he did that day. He really did. Then after the practice, asked Coach Price, what do you think? He said, what kind of car would Freddie like to drive? He was joking. He said, tell his daddy we'll get him one. I said, how good is he? Now, I don't know where he'd been, but he said, I've been to 8 or 10 places that's got great quarterbacks in the United States. I don't know who they were. You could go back in 87 or 92 and figure out.
Yeah.
But he said Freddie's the best. He's the best one I've recruited.
That's awesome. Todrick Malone.
Smooth, could fly, just unique. Everybody don't get to coach one like him.
Yeah.
He was just really unique.
Was it Freddie or Patrick threw the one where he flipped over the fence?
That was against Homewood, and we got beat. That was Freddie.
It was Freddie? Okay. What about Ed Sissom?
Tough, good mom and daddy. I thought the world. You can understand why he was as good a kid as he was, but if you knew his mom and daddy, they were just. Ed was nearly quit one day during practice. He was going to quit and join the Marines. Practice guy. I joke about him all the time. Every time I see him, I say, "Will you join the Marines yet?" But Ed was just extremely tough, a 2,000-yard rusher.
He was good.
Big too, about 225 too.
Your practices must have been pretty hard for him to say, "I'm done with this. I'm going to join the Marines."
It was. I had to run the perfect play, and all 11 people had to be perfect.
Love it. What about Derek Nix?
Would have been a first-round draft pick in the pros. 6'3", 235, ran a 4.67. Would have broke every record at Southern Miss if his kidneys hadn't quit because they gave him an anti-inflammatory drug. But he would have broke every record at Southern Miss he would have been a first-round draft pick. And I think he would have done really well.
One of the players I always think is the most underrated Etowah player during your tenure there was Anthony Mayo.
A winner. Just really a winner. Played really, really good his senior year.
That was against Williamson, the championship run.
Oh yeah, we played one of our worst games in that game. We didn't, and we won. So we had a pretty good football team.
Yeah, and you know who I'm gonna close with? Cadillac Williams.
Throw away the mold when they made him. He's different than anybody, and he was a great talent, but he was wired different. I mean, and that started. I know after I took over and Coach Townsend went to Stires Hill. My wife taught at Stires Hill, and my wife had come in and said, "Coach Townsend said, tell you there's two coming. They're going to be really good." That was Carnell and Donnell. That was when they
Donnell Horton.
That's when they was in the 6th grade. But Carnell, when he was in the 7th grade, started on the 9th grade team. Mm-hmm. He gained 1,200 yards as a 7th grader when he was playing on the 9th grade team. We play Oxford, that's when coach that won 2 state championships was still over there. And after the ball game, that junior high game, Carnell had scored every way he could score. Line of scrimmage, kickoff, screen pass, punt return, kickoff, every way he could score. And Coach asked, "Hey, Coach," said, "Carnell that running back gonna start for you next year?" I said, "Coach, he's a 7th grader." He could have started for it. And he came over in the 8th grade before his 9th grade year. He wasn't intimidated. He wanted to run the ball every play when he was in the 8th grade in the spring. But the next fall, he was in the backfield with Torrey Hale and Derek Dix.
I remember.
There's been very few backfield. State of Alabama had 3 better football players than that.
Can you tell everybody the story about Rush Probst when he was at the practice when Carnell went?
Oh yeah, we went to when Carnell played an All-Star game, and he'd already made a name for himself because he was so unselfish. They never had seen anybody that wanted. He was getting a lot of accolades, and they wanted him for this interview and for that interview, and he always would tell them, "I got to be with my teammates. I can't be doing all these interviews all the time, missing practice." But they're practicing at Fairhope. We get down there, I think, on a Wednesday. They had a coaching clinic that went with the game, and me and my wife went over and watched them practice at Fairhope. Fairhope's ground level stadium. You pull in, you're ground level. Well, we pulled in, and we're headed down the bleachers to about midway, and Rush was out on the field, and "Hey, Coach!" He waved at me. I waved at him. He come over there and said, he's the best I've ever seen. I said, well, I'm glad y'all got to see it. And the coach from Scottsboro was coaching on that staff, and he told me, the coach from Scottsboro said, I thought he was good when we played y'all. Said he's better than I ever thought he was. But he was just wired different. He thought different, and I later on went to a coaching clinic at Jack State and walked in a big room. There's about 150 coaches there. And I'm running a little bit late, and Rush is at the podium, and I was trying to sneak in and not cause her interrupt. Hey, Coach Farmer, let me tell you about one of his players. That's what he said. We're at in Mobile, and we're on the 30-yard line doing goal line offense.
Oh yeah.
And every time Carnell touches it, he runs across the goal line. And Probst said, "Son, you don't have to run full speed in this drill." He said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Coach Farmer told me every time I touched it, I was supposed to score." And that makes you. That's how things are carried over. You never know about till somebody tells you.
Now I want to ask you a question, and I remember some specifically. Who's a player from another team that you had just a hard time stopping? I remember the days with
Jimmy Williams from the Jets.
Yes, sir.
He could run with it, run with blocking, without blocking, run over you, run around you. He was really, really good.
I remember those days. He was a monster.
He was really, really good.
On that same note, who is a coach that you coached against a lot that you really have a lot of respect for? That you
Coach Elmore at Fort Payne. I was a defensive coordinator. He may have gotten out of the head coaching business by the time I became a head coach, but I had a lot of respect for him. And the coach at Inslee High School had a lot of respect for him. And I tried to hire him one time.
That's awesome.
But he had a good job, but I called him up and offered him a job when we had an opening. And you got to hand it to Vince DeLorenzo when he was at Gaston. Nobody had no more talent than they did. They were competitive. We managed to beat them more than they beat us, but Vince was a good football coach.
Absolutely. I remember you used to take trips to like Pike County and all the way to Fort Walton and stuff. Did you have trouble finding people to schedule you back then, non-area games? Or did you do those to make your team better?
I basically did it to make the team better and give. And heck, we went to when Coach Townsend was here, we played Escambia, which is the most physical football team I've ever coached against. We wore them out, but they looked like a college team. And then we played. Who did we play? Pensacola.
Fort Walton.
Played Fort Walton, and Fort Walton was ranked number 3. And the thing about, I got to tell this story. This is some of these kids from Etowah, had never been out of town before. Most of it. I remember one of the kids we had one time. I asked him, "Have you ever been to Florida?" He said, "Yeah, one time I went to Tennessee." I knew he hadn't been to Florida. I guess he just saw the water at Gunnersville and thought he should. But we tried to give the kids. Some of them had never seen the beach, and I wasn't a big proponent of letting them swim, but we let them swim. But we told the kids, we're going to feed you well. And the Booster Club fed us the first Thursday night we got there. They had a fish fry. And I said, "You don't need to be eating nothing else." Well, about 11 o'clock, I see one of the players' daddies coming. He's got 2 or 3 gallons of milk on each arm and a bunch of cakes and pies. And I told the coaches, I said, "Look at that right there." And I said, "You might as well check his rooms, because I forgot how much food the coaches found in the. I didn't overreact. I could have got really, really mad, and I could, but I forgot how many pizzas we got. They wasn't supposed to be ordering anything else. But kids, especially college kids, get out. They ain't never been out of town. They just. But we wound up got behind 14-0 in that ball game, and I told the coaches and this is after Kevin Worthy forgot his uniform. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just I don't know how you do that, but he did, or forgot his jersey and had to wear another jersey. And but we were behind 14-0 at halftime. I said, if we go in and rip them, they'll quit on us. So just go in and coach them up. And we went out and we scored 3 times second half and beat them 21-14.
Was there ever a time in your tenure there at Etowah during that run you just like, man, this is unbelievable?
It's just, I've told people here lately, I said, we never, to my knowledge, we never played in a ball game our kids thought was going to lose. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got Etowah kids that brazen that fight you to drop the hat and drop the hat. We go to Auburn. They invited us down for a free game down there to watch. And we're sitting in the end zone. Well, there's a lot of fraternities sitting in the end zone and sororities. Well, we had some down there. I don't remember who Auburn was playing. Well, we have some, I think, gets rooting for the other team. I mean, you're supposed to know better, but they're rooting for the other team. Well, I looked down there and I saw all them Etowah boys turn them hats around backwards. I said, Coach, you better get down there because something fixed to happen. It ain't going to be good. And our bunch was outnumbered 500 to 1, but they didn't. They knew that if it was fixed to be a fight, they wasn't going to miss it.
They're going to get in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So we always ask coaches this, and I'm going to ask you as well. Do you hate the losses more or love the wins more?
You remember the losses more than you do. Although there's so many big games that we won. I remember when Coach Townsend was here, we had a kid kick a field goal against Gadsden late that won. Then we had Tommy Worthy throw to Reggie Worthy in 94,
I believe.
Last play of the ball game and won. We played.
Was it Tuscaloosa County? Dusty Pierce caught and he put his hands on the hip. You remember that? And you got it pretty good.
I told Dusty. I said, you need to see me. See me after practice. Yeah, but
I remember that one too.
and probably one of the best football teams that we beat was Pike County.
Mm-hmm.
That gum thunderstorm.
Yeah,
and if they don't try to run 2 or 3 reverses on us, if they line up, run that big 225-pound fullback, and don't try to throw it, they'd probably beat us. But Ed Sissom had 180-yard rushing, and we wound up beating them. That was a good football team.
Mm-hmm. Do you think if you were to start your career over that now, the way your coaching method, do you think you'd still be as effective as you were then? You don't think so?
I don't think I would snatch one up every once in a while to get their attention, and you probably wouldn't have a job now. There's very few places, maybe outside of 5. Outside of 5, I don't know if there's many places you can coach like he has for the last 25 years, or however how long you've been there.
That's awesome. What do you think the biggest difference in the overall game of football is today than when you were coaching?
I think there's less time spent on fundamentals, blocking and tackling. Everybody's designing plays, and I remember when I took over as head coach at Etowah, Gene Hill was the junior high football coach. He did as good a job getting kids prepared to play when they came up in the 9th grade because they could block, they could tackle. And I've got a grandson that plays his 7th grader plays on a team that feeds Tuscaloosa County High School. They got some good-looking kids, but they don't know how to block, don't know how to tackle. Mm-hmm. And that's the basics. If you can do that, and I think that's one of the reasons that we were always successful at Etowah, because we didn't shun that.
Yeah.
And you got to have some. Now you can't even go 2 days in a row in pads. I know it's from a health standpoint, but it just seems to me like if you practice every day in pads, it's going to make you less likely to get hurt in a ball game. But I don't know what the research shows, but common sense would tell me that.
I agree with that.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
It does. Do you find yourself still coaching from the stands when you go watch a game?
I try not to, but once it's there, I try not to be critical.
Right.
I made the mistake here about 2 years ago making a comment. I didn't make it loudly about a coach. It wasn't head coach at Etowah, but it was a coach. And what I didn't know was it wasn't the one I was talking about. It was another one. Why? Our sister was in the stands, and I got chewed out. So I've been real careful about what I say, because I just, some people's philosophy is I pay, and I guess this is okay. I've paid my $5. I can say what I want. And I tell you, my story to them, and my word to them is, until you've done it for a living, you don't really know what you would do until you're put in that position. And there's a whole lot more to the game and game planning, even in high school, than parents. The ordinary fan has no idea the number of hours that these coaches spend, even in high school, getting prepared to play the game. The kids in college, in high school right now, are getting as good a coaching as they're getting in college. Mm-hmm. That's the reason a lot of these college coaches, or a lot of these kids, can go and play, just because they've been, first of all, they're some tremendous athletes, but they know the game, mm-hmm. and know the fundamentals.
Who's some of the current coaches around the state that you got a lot of respect for?
Well, the one at Fife and the one at Homewood. He's mm-hmm. been at Homewood forever, mm-hmm. and can still coach. Some of these coach at UMS Wright in Mobile. I know him personally, I can't call his name. But those two, and coaches at schools like Ohatchee that are just year in, year out, Coach, I made the statement to Coach Holliday when I was asking him how he liked it at Etowah. He said, well, they've got it set up at Etowah where you've got a path to winning. He said, some places you go, that path is jumbled up. You're set up to fail from the start. But either because of administration, the way they got your classroom schedule, they may not have athletics in a block where all the athletes can practice at the same time. So it depends on where you are. Some people just got different philosophies. And I never worked. I worked for some women, and there are some good ones, just like there are good women principals and good men principals.
Coach Terry Curtis.
UMS Wright, yeah.
You actually got to coach your sons too. What was that like?
Too tough on him. I did a poor job.
Michael?
Did a better job than Michael and did my youngest son, Chris.
Okay.
And both of them, the unique thing about both of my sons, they got their name on a block. People that hadn't seen that, I don't know of another. Do you know of another school that's got tombstones like that? Or,
not that I know of.
That's just unique. That's unique.
Really unique.
And when you know that your two sons have their names on the blocks, it really means a lot.
So, a lot of people don't know this about you. You was actually a really excellent basketball coach. You actually coached me, and I know Jason Presley, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, sings high praise of you.
Well, I won everywhere I was ever at. Well, I think like I was coached the B team in '67 was 7-14. Then I went to Walker County, was 19-5. Then I went to Asheville, and I was 97-14. But when I came to Etowah, I never had a winning season. And I didn't do anything any different. But Jason Presley told me one time that, and he was successful as a basketball, really a good basketball. He said, "Coach, I'm still using offense you taught us in B team. That's what I've used."
He's telling the
But
truth.
I played basketball. I enjoyed coaching basketball, and was successful at it. Enjoyed coaching track. Had the opportunity to coach 3 state championships in track,
That's awesome.
and didn't have a track,
That's awesome. That's true too.
and never stayed after school. We run them and send them home.
Do you find that coaching any sport is universal? You know,
The same thing that'll make you successful, yeah, is there's nothing takes the place of coaching some great athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just like Coach Holliday, he'll tell you right now, some people have got 1 or 2 people that can run. He's got a half a dozen that can fly. I'm talking about and when you have to defend, you either got speed or you chase it.
That's true.
And he's got a bunch of it. And he can put you really in a bind.
Mm-hmm.
And he has had excellent play out of his quarterback.
Yeah,
Excellent play.
Brady.
Yeah.
Brady Troop.
Yes, sir.
Very good. How did you maintain a work-life balance through all those coaching years?
Well, when I proposed to my wife going down I-59 on a Christmas Eve, I think, of 68, I believe. I told her, I said, I'm in a profession where I ain't gonna be there very much. I guess that's the reason we stayed married so long. I didn't.
He's honest up front.
But it just, I told her I was gonna spend a lot of time, but we always managed to vacate in the summertime and get away from it some. But I enjoyed the thrill of the hunt as far as coaching and trying. And some of the best games I probably coached in, I lost for whatever reason. But I enjoyed preparing. It's a game. I mean, coaches. When I was at Springville, we were 3-7. Galesville was 10-0. They had a player by the name of Johnny McDupre. I went and seen Johnny McDupre play a week before we played him in the first round of the playoffs. They played Donahoe. They run a toss sweep. First play, Donahoe had a safety about 6'3", 195. Come up, hit him under the chin, and knocked Johnny Mac out. He stayed out one play, come back in, run it 43 times for 347 yards. Well, he gained 2,500 yards in 10 games, 250 yards a game. We held him to 139 yards, no scores. We had a guard missile block. We got beat 14-7, and they was 10-0. We was 3-7. But I enjoyed trying to defend folks that better than us.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then when I went to Donahoe after I left Etowah, I coached the running back over there. His last 4 games of his career, he averaged 296 yards a game and 4 touchdowns. He was Jack State, got hurt, never played, but he was pretty good.
Man, looking back over the years, what would you say is your most memorable moment as a coach? Could be any sport. Is there anything that sticks out above all the rest, or is it just kind of?
Well, winning the first state championship in track in 1971, we come down to the last event. We was playing, which is the mile relay, which is a gut check. And I knew we couldn't beat Aniana. They were just better than us in time. But if we come in second, we win the whole shooting match. And I knew if we come in second, we'd win it if we didn't drop the baton. And we won the first one in 71 and went back and blowed them out. And the next year, in 72, and then blowed them out again in 73. That was exciting. Winning the championship in '99, till you've been there, you can't really explain that. It just to know that you have won a state championship, and you're pretty doggone good. And I had a coach that coached at coach in Birmingham. I can't wasn't Hoover, but it was Pelham. He said, "Coach, I was the best team in the state, any classification," which I guess we were in '99. But when you coach it really great at, everybody don't get to coach Carnell or Freddie or Derek Nix or Edsa. Everybody don't get to coach them guys. And Etowah puts a lot of priority on winning, and that's better than the alternative.
That's awesome. In the twilight of your career, was there ever a time that you thought, I think it's about time for me to step away?
The last year I coached at Victory Christian, and single A school. No, there's a double A school by one student, and we having to play Welborn, Ohatchee. Team out of Birmingham had a wide receiver, went to University of Alabama, I can't do. But I mean, and we played a team out of Clay County, and it was just
That was Clay County.
yeah. But it just said when I left Etowah and went to Donahoe, we played in a really tough area. I stayed there 2 years. After I left, they went to a whole lot easier area. We were 5-5 and was a pretty good football team the first year I was at Donahoe. Stayed there 2 years. I was at Harrison County, Georgia. There'd been a lot of good football players come out of that area, and was at Cedartown. Not the head coach at either place, and then was head coach at Coosa. Well, we had a really tough league at Coosa. 2 years after, a year after I left at Coosa, they got in a different region, went 8-2, and they weren't as good as we were when I was there, but they went 8-2. Then I went to Victory Christian, and those kids didn't know anything about protection or. And Lord, we were the most out man. I was just afraid every time there was a punt. I had to cover my face, and when I opened my eyes to see how many we had laying on the field, it was that bad.
Wow.
And then 2 years after a year after I left there, they got in a different area, and I believe they went 9-1. Those kids that I had when I was in the 7th grade. But the last year I was at Victory, I figured I saw the light.
So writing on the wall, huh? What we find you doing nowadays? Now I see you in the gym personally.
That's basically what I do.
Go to the
gym and teach Sunday school at church and sing in the choir.
You got to keep that mind going.
Well, you do. I mean, there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people quit coaching or quit teaching or quit jobs and just sit around and die.
Yeah.
I mean, not too long after.
It's true.
So,
Bear Bryant was one.
yeah, it's, but I say I'm 76, and I say that, it don't even register. That used to you had 1 foot in the grave if you was 40.
Oh yeah.
But my life has just been really. I've seen a lot more than a lot of folks. I think I've got to experience a lot of things. I can't go anywhere in the state of Alabama that I go in a mall somewhere. I'm gonna see somebody that I either coached against, coached with, played for me. But it's just good when when you see kids. Now they've got kids and grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
And it really tells you how old you are.
I have noticed your memory is amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you go back and watch this, your numbers that you've rattled off.
This is amazing.
And I noticed when you talk about losses, you can.
Well, you remember the losses, like that loss to Galesville when we stopped Johnny McDupre. The guard has a standing rule. Play run to your side. You got a man in the guard center gap. You block him. Well, we in a wishbone. We on the 2-yard line. Left guard, who's one of the best players I had, he don't block the one technique, and
Shot through.
And shot through. And we don't score. Got beat 14-7. They're 10-0. We're 3-7. We should have won the football game. You remember things like that. But most of my memories, I've got good memories out everywhere I've ever been. Even at Victory Christian when we was getting killed, some of those kids have turned out to be just super
Great kids.
Yeah, they've turned out to be just really good.
That's awesome. Finally, in closing here, Coach, what would you like to say to like the communities, the fans, the administration, and obviously the players that you've had over the years? Like a message you'd like to say?
Well, I just like to say thank you for providing me with the opportunity to do what I really enjoyed doing. And some places were better than others, but some places have more athletes. I asked Jeremy Pruitt one time, I said, what's Rush Pro's key? He said, good players. I mean, he didn't bat an eye when he said that. You're winning. Some people have never been in a situation where they don't have. When I coached at Iceville in Springville, you go through cycles where, man, you'll have a really good group. When I went back to Iceville the second time, first year I went back was in 81. I came there in the spring and I had the best group of kids, one of the best groups I've ever had, but they never had been through a summer program. Well, heck, when we started the summer workout, nobody showed up. Well, we lined up with 22 kids in August. We had about 55. They don't show up for workout, they don't play. And we lined up. Heck, we throwed it in 1981. We throwed it like they throw it now. Cause I had a quarterback could throw it, and I had 2 or 3 wide receivers that could catch it. And I just devised. I was 20 years ahead of time, out of necessity. And we was 3-7, and then we went 4-6. And a lot of those kids that quit the first year I was there came back out, and the third year I was 8-3. They allowed you to play an extra game that year. That's the only time that's ever happened. We picked up Cleveland and go up there and beat Cleveland, but we was 8-3. And I had in a backfield, I had a kid that was about 220 that played fullback, run a 4-4. And a little halfback that run a 4-5, and another halfback that run a 4-5 in the same backfield. And they was just a unique group of kids. But in a small school like that, you may have a run there, and then all of a sudden you got 2 or 3 classes that ain't got many in it. Boy, you suffer. It ain't nothing you can do about it, but just take your lumps. Now some people they don't ever go through lulls, but if you coach in a small school, you're gonna have a lull now every once in a while.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you sitting in with us. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed it.